I'm a board member here, and I'm also the chair of the Berkeley's Zero Waste Commission. And I'm just entered my 9th year of voluntary servitude for the city. I did try to leave last year, and then the outgoing mayor said no, because we're in a big transition time in Berkeley. And so I'm staying for a little bit. And the city's also, I'm on with a firm that's doing the Zero Waste Strategic Plan, which is a 10-year roadmap. And we're almost done with that for the city of Berkeley. And then I get to leave and do other things. So, all right, so I think we'll start. So my name is Chris DeTournay-Burcon, and I just told you a little bit about me. And then I'll have everyone just say a thing about yourself, but we have first William Barros from Scrap in the city.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. It really is important, and she's totally right. You guys are heroes for being interested and wanting to spread this message. So yeah, I'm the depot manager at Scrap. I've been there since COVID. I started right in the middle of COVID. And I started as a creative reuse specialist, which is what we call our folks who are at intake and who are dealing with the depot. I became depot manager about 2.5 years ago.
I'll do Anna. Anna's next. Doesn't matter the order of the chairs. Oh, Anna is here. She is part of this depot.
Indeed, I am. Oh, my goodness. I am. I'm the manager, the store manager for the East Bay Depot. I've been here for about 1.5 years, so post-COVID, and delighted to be here. So thank you all for coming. We're really excited to be able to do this today. So thank you.
And Brooke Levin.
Hello, everybody. Brooke Levin. I am an Oakland resident. I am the retired Public Works Director for the City of Oakland. And I am a depot volunteer. I am actually the jewelry curator for the depot. And you'll hear more about that later and all the different details of my city experience and knowledge as well.
Great. Thank you. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Maggie Tenenbaum there, that's you. And she has been a huge part of the depot for, is it 20 or 22 years? 25, since she was a wee child. And Catherine Millar, who put this together, who is our executive director, been on board a couple years. And then we have another board member here, Laurentine Brazil, right there. Thank you. All right, so go ahead.
So
You tell me next.
Okay. This is a little info, or a lot of info about Scrap's founding. Almost 50 years. We're coming up on our 50-year anniversary next year, so super excited about that. And super excited that it's coinciding with the Ruth Asawa movement, the Ruth Asawa exhibit, which is happening right now at MoMA. She is one of our founders, and we feel very strongly that Scrap is one of her living works of art, something that she created, that she founded, that is still going. And I think that's a big part of a lot of her artwork are things that just kept living and kept going. So we're very proud to be founded by her and Anne-Marie Theren. And yeah, we've been around for a long time. We're hoping to find a new home and be around for another 50 years. Next. So I don't know how many people have been to Scrap. Lots of people, that's awesome. It changes a lot depending on what we get. This corner never changes. This is our arts and crafts corner. The yellow spined magazines are National Geographics. Some of the only magazines that we take. But we divert a lot from the waste stream. We try and take everything. It's really hard. It's probably something we're going to be talking about in this panel. We want to save everything, and we can't, and we do our best. And we do just incredible amounts of tonnage every month, and yeah, we're going to keep going. This is a little slide on our programs, which is a big part of Scrap. When you come to the depot, most people just associate Scrap with what we have for sale, but Scrap is also a big part of a lot of kids' experiences in San Francisco schools. A lot of people come through Scrap, through field trips. We have Scrap in a Box, which is a program in elementary schools for kids to do art, where we go into their schools. We have a program for high school students, which is more of like a sustainable fashion program. So we teach kids how to sew and how to, reuse materials and make stuff. They are really into sweatpants and denim and stuff like that. But it's great. It's really fun to see those people come to Scrap to shop to get more stuff. You can tell how much of an impact we're having. 200 plus tons of materials. That's about 1,000 pounds a day, which is crazy. And if you saw the stuff that we don't take, you'd be shocked. We definitely, we try and take what we can. We try and take everything that we can, and we do work very closely with a couple sort of semi-partners in San Francisco. The Community Thrift is a thrift store in the Mission on Valencia Street around 17th. That we send all of our folks who want to give us stuff that we can't take, like clothing, and there's a long list of things that we just wish we could take, but we don't have space. And when things are more along the lines of building materials as opposed to art materials, like construction surplus and stuff like that, just big things we don't have room for, we send them over to Building Resources or Urban Ore if they're East Bay folks. Because as much as we'd like to take, we do have departments in Scrap of metal and glass and wood and all those construction-y things. They're small, and we can only take what we can fit. So we send people to other places when we can. All right.
Okay, forgive my notes. They're numbers and specifics, so I want to be sure I got them all in the right place. Just in terms of a little bit of history for the depot, it was started in 1979 by two teachers in an abandoned firehouse on 60th Street in Oakland. They achieved their not-for-profit status about 2 years later, in 1981, and then moved to their San Pablo location, which was on the border of Oakland and Berkeley, in 1996. Significantly, that location did not have a loading dock. So in 2007, we moved here to Temescal, and we have a loading dock, which is really great if you're going to take donations. And at this location, we have about 4,500 square feet. Throughout our 45-plus year history, the core of our mission has been consistent. Our main goal is to divert material from the waste stream. Additionally, we want to support our local artists with affordable art supplies, be they young or old, novice or professional. And we also support our teachers, pre-K through 12. Our current program for that is our Green Educator program. We serve about 400 teachers on our roster at this time, and it's growing. We offer them a $25 stipend every month, with which they can buy supplies for their classroom. And at this time, the depot is donating about $35,000 of materials a year to our teachers in support of them. Yeah, which is pretty great. So if you're a teacher, come sign up. We would love to help you. After all the contractions of the pandemic, the depot has been working to expand again, and so yes, we have gotten some workshops going again in our Maker Studio in the back, which was established in 2022. And we are hoping to have more. They've been great. Brooke hosted a workshop. We have a wonderful teacher who has done lots of repair workshops, sashiko, all kinds of great things. So we are hoping to do a great deal more of that, working to do a great deal more of that, and are looking for other opportunities to serve the community. So that's very exciting. I came on board in November of 2023 after a 30-year career in professional costume design for stage and opera. So I think it's fair to say that I have spent my professional career in not-for-profits. When I got here, things were looking pretty bleak. We were going through a pretty rough patch. But over a year and a half, we've not only, I think, gotten back on our feet, but we have begun to thrive, which is enormously exciting and very gratifying. So we're delighted to be here. We are open 5 days a week. Post-pandemic, for a time, we were only open 3 days a week. Pre-pandemic, 7 days a week. Of those 5 days, we take donations on 2 days only, versus 7 from pre-pandemic times. But we are far more efficient and generate far less waste than in years past. We take what we can offer and we endeavor not to throw things away. So, and in this, year and a half that I've been here, I've come to believe that perhaps our most valuable commodity that we offer, and perhaps most resale endeavors offer, is that we offer the opportunity for us all to recalibrate our relationship to consumerism, to what we consume. And in that can encourage a lighter carbon step through the world. So that also is very exciting. I think it's fair to say that a reuse center is not your typical retail. The entire inventory here at the depot is donated, from every paperclip to sterling jewelry, you name it. Every single thing we offer is donated. We purchase nothing. So in that sense, you never know what you're going to get or how much. It's a movable feast. So it's important you have to gauge your the range of your price points. Here, the high end of that is about $300. Nobody's going to come in here expecting to pay more than that for anything. So it's important relative to your sales and your storage to understand not only what that price point is, but also what people are attracted to. What do they come to you for? We too don't take clothing. We don't have room for it, and other establishments do that better than we can. So generally speaking, we don't take clothing there, and large furniture, things of that sort. To this end, I have discovered that having an informed and committed intake staff is critical, as is the efficiency with which things come in and move out. I maintain that flow of goods from the donation dock onto the floor is the lifeblood of the depot. It's what keeps its heart pumping. If we have great stuff that ends up, moldering on shelves in the back, it's not doing anybody any good. So, really important. Dock staff is critical. Because the inventory is changeable, we have a whole variety of ways of pricing. The two most costly aspects of this endeavor are rent and labor. That's probably true with most places, but it's certainly true for us. We are committed to paying our staff a decent wage, and in order to meet our expenses, our rent, our payroll, we have to earn an average. We have to net an average of $2,000 a day every day we're open, and that's just to meet our expenses. So currently, this wonderful staff consists of 4 sales associates, 1 lead, dock lead, 1 sales associate lead, me. We have Maggie, our administrative manager, Catherine, our executive director, and a 6-member board. We also have a crew of committed and wonderful volunteers, not the least of which, probably the most valuable of which and the most dependent on which, is Brooke Levin, who is our jewelry coordinator. So I think it's safe to say that our staff is small but mighty. The team I have now is incredible. They're tight and collaborative. And having this wonderful invested team has been critical to the success that we've known over the last year and a half. And their hard work and collaboration is in fact reflected in our numbers. We're delighted you're here. Thank you. Thank you for putting up with my paper. And I will turn it over.
So, as I said, we have a speaker that couldn't come, and I'm going to speak in their place just to talk about something that has been a huge part of the Bay Area community since 1980. And right now, so I think we've hit 45 years. I'll say we because I consider myself somewhat involved because of Berkeley and their association with Berkeley. There are 40 employees, 28 full-time. It's on that big 3-acre parcel. I don't know if everyone knows where it is. So it was started in 1980 by Dan Knapp and Mary Lou. Dan and Mary Lou, I've known them for years. They started it. It was a really interesting time in waste. There was a lot of talk going on about reuse that early. I think in '76, Berkeley started noticing that there was a lot of reusable items and everything was going to landfill. And then Berkeley closed its landfill and they were going to build an incinerator. And because Berkeley has a history of incredibly energized and committed advocates in the community, the incinerator was nixed, thank God. And they built a transfer station, which is down at the base of Berkeley on 2nd and Gilman. And that's where, right around the corner on 6th and Gilman, is where Urban Ore started. And the city let them use the property for 3 years or so until they started to show a profit. And when they did, they had to pay some rent. So they got going. They had a hard time in the beginning getting customers because people were not used to paying for used things. And I have certainly noticed in doing this work that for some reason, everyone, and this goes for recycling and compost, that everyone thinks it's like a charity thing, that they should just get it all for free. And coming from Berkeley, where everybody thinks the streets are the best reuse system in the world, I'd really have to disagree with that because it's illegal dumping and things get ruined very quickly. Glass is broken. I mean, something that was perfectly saleable may not be saleable the next morning. Plus, I don't really want your old salad spinner that's missing the top, you know. But that's a Berkeley thing. So, then, and I have to use cheat sheets because this was, Max was going to talk about this. But anyway, the transfer station got built, and in '86, which does need a rebuild. It is old and needs to be redone into a much more user-friendly transfer station on its 7 acres that also has the recycling facilities there. And so anyway, what started to happen also is in '89, AB 939 was coming down, and that was the California Integrated Waste mandate. Everybody had to have a plan to achieve diversion from landfill, 50% diversion from landfill by 2000. And so Urban Ore was just there, ready to help, and they started gleaning from the pile, which means Berkeley's transfer station has self-haul, and so anyone from the community can come in and dump all of their, in many cases, I've been on that floor, perfectly usable stuff. And Urban Ore was put under contract to salvage from the pile. And so they were being paid the same amount of what it costs for the city to go and truck it to landfill. So it was kind of perfect, and this went on for a while. And I think it started at $30 and went up to $40, and then at some point the city's like, we don't have money to do this. I mean, so yes, that was canceled in 2012, came back finally in 2020, and this is actually on the EPA website as a case study, Urban Ore is. I urge everyone to go check out the website while it's still there, because I don't know how long these stories will be up there, but it is a case study for a reuse center. So I don't know who's been in it and who hasn't. It's a very big warehouse. It was a pipe fitting company, and the city and the county and the state and the federal government all helped make this happen for them to finally move. Beginning in 2000, it took almost 2 years to move, and they went over to this facility, which is a 3-acre parcel Some were grants, some were loans. Everything was paid back that was a loan. So everybody came together, and because they realized the value of reuse. And so it was a watershed moment. And so this is the interior. The inside of Urban Aura does make more money than the outside, though it has a much smaller square footage of sales space. But more money is made inside. Outside things tend to stay a lot longer too. There's also, I don't know how many toilets everybody needs, used toilets, so they'll stay for a while. Anything on the inside is actually tagged. They have a system that has a date on it, and every month they reassess it and they'll mark it down. So there's a very good system of inventory. They do buy things. They also get things for free that are donated. They also charge fees for certain things, like toilets. And it's nominal, the fees, it's $10. But in the end, when that has to be broken and put into some kind of materials box to be taken to Zanker, because it's C&D, they at least know that they kept it out of landfill. And so the sum is nominal, but it helps them basically collect enough for a 20-yard container to be trucked down to the right facility. And they're very unusual in that they are, so these are old numbers, but the idea is the same, is that the things that they purchase, which helps the community because they put money back out in the community when they purchase things for resale, they pay sales tax, they pay property taxes, and then of course they pay all the other taxes. So this is a for-profit model versus a nonprofit model. And I love to see this because, again, it doesn't have to be charity. It shouldn't be charity. You know, people shouldn't be able to just dump their stuff or throw it away. It's their stuff. And it costs money to handle people's stuff, whether you truck it to landfill, whether you truck it to Zanker, whether you move it all around in a facility, it costs money. You have to pay money to people to run it. And let's see what else is up here. So Max did really want it to be noticed that the transfer station plays a key role in diverting from landfill. And thank God for this contract that's going on now again. And then they also recycle all this stuff that they collect, whether they think they can resell it or not. They would hope to resell it, but if they don't, they know that they have a destination for it because they're committed to diversion. And that's why it's an amazing community resource. So there's both, non-ferrous and ferrous metals, glass, ceramics, electronics. They actually, the line, if you've ever dropped anything off there, everyone on the line is trained to decide what value it has. And if it's something that they absolutely can't take, they can't take it. But they will assess the value if it's resaleable, or if it's maybe resaleable but can last longer outside. And if not, as I said, they're keeping it out of the stream. So especially in difficult categories like textiles, because we know that textile pollution is actually huge. So yeah, this is the salvage contract that we were talking about, and it's pretty impressive. They actually don't salvage everything, I must say, because I've been there and going, what about that basket? What, there's a knife on the floor. There's like brand new tennis shoes. I was there on a weekend, which is a really busy time for mom and pop regular users. There's a lot of homes that are being cleared out. Like, it's history. You can tell when someone died or is going into a home. All of a sudden, there's a gentleman, is what I mostly saw, that come and they unload their truck of baskets and vases, and everything is usable, and they just want it gone. And so Urban Aura has to make assessments about what they think they can resell. Where's the higher value? They can't rescue everything. I rescued some stuff because I could not. I could not. I got a pair of brand new, they were straight out of Marshall's, brand new shoes in a size 5. I am not a size 5. But I made sure I found a size 5 somewhere because they have to be worn. They can't go to landfill. And one of the difficult things is once it hits the tipping floor, if it's not gleaned by Urban Aura, it goes straight into landfill. The bulldozer comes in, the front loader, and it is just heartbreaking. Everybody should have to work either on the recycling line, which I have there, or work at the tipping floor, just because it's overwhelming. So anyway, I want to turn it over right now. So Brooke, because I really wanted her to make the bridge a little bit about city, municipality, different partnerships, collaborations that can be struck with entities that are not underwritten completely or run by a government.
Thank you. So my background is that I started work for the city of Oakland in 1991. when Elihu Harris became mayor of Oakland. And I was on his staff initially, and that is right after AB 939 had passed and cities were going through the contracting process to start their first curbside recycling. So we did that, and in addition to that, we did a lot of recycling outreach and education. When the depot was on was leaving the city of Oakland-owned firehouse on 60th Street, I was working for the city. I was the environmental services manager, and they're like, we need help. Well, they found a space on San Pablo that was on the Oakland-Berkeley border. Half the building was in Oakland and half the building was in Berkeley. And so we got together with the city of Berkeley and we agreed to pay the depot, each city, the same amount to help them with the transition and getting set up in that new building. I understand they had to leave the building because UC wanted to take the building over, and it was a UC-owned building, and now there's a big gym in the bottom of it and offices above. But I had an involvement with that, so I go way back with the depot from the fire station timeframe. As far as, and then bringing the city in. And the depot in those early days had a lot of outreach into the community. They had a lower rent, a lower overhead, and they were able to do a lot more. They had Miss Overy, I don't know if any of you ever met her. She would come to all these events and she would bring those Legs company stockings that came in a big egg. Oh, yeah, Legs. Yeah, so everybody donated those to the depot, and then she'd make, Maggie probably remembers this, she would make puppets and Madame Overy, okay. She'd make all kinds of things out of these things and teach the community how to do that. And she would come to the Oakland Environmental Expo, and she would come here and she would go there, all the street fairs. And, I think there were more grants, yes.
That program was funded by the city of Oakland Rapid.
Yes. And we had the Trash to Treasures, and the city of Oakland collaborated with the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, which is now called Stop Waste, to have a big fashion show one year of reuse things. So there's been a lot of iterations of things. And as government has tightened up, there's been less availability for some of these creative things that were important when you're trying to get people's awareness of recycling. Now everybody, you wouldn't be comfortable if you lived someplace and there was nowhere to divert your materials, right? You would feel like this is the weirdest place I've ever lived because now we're used to it. It's become commonplace. But back in 1994, when we got curbside recycling in our city, it was not commonplace. People were disgusted and would write us letters saying it was horrible they had to put their things on the curb. At any rate.
Now they love it. They put all their junk on the curb.
Yeah. So and I'm really glad that you pointed out, the issue of putting out free stuff. I put free stuff out once in a while. I put it out in front of my house with a sign saying free, and as soon as it starts getting dark, I bring it in if it has not gone out. Now we have the Buy Nothing groups. We have so many ways of moving things along into our community. A lot of neighborhoods have their own little community conversation with their neighbors on their block and everything on email where they have something that they want to move along and they do that. And then, of course, coming to scrap, coming to the depot. But COVID put a huge change in that because before COVID, Salvation Army and Goodwill and some of those bigger thrifts would pretty much take anything. After COVID, they started really restricting what they would take. They would have a list on their website. They would make you sort at their location. And, I think everybody was realizing people were just desperate to move a lot of things along. And the other thing I want to point out is that with the aging population, and the fact that there's a lot of people who are trying to clear out houses because their elder family members are moving into assisted living or they have died. That is a huge issue, and it's even an issue, I believe, at the depot where people call up and they want to bring a truckload of stuff. That day, a realtor told me this one day at the jewelry counter, I have a 26-foot truck and nobody would take it. I had it filled with things that were really good and that would bring a lot of money. But do you think a space like this could take a 26-foot truck's worth of stuff that's not sorted and that's, So anyway, I've negotiated garbage contracts. I've negotiated recycling contracts. And I think one of the common themes around the depot, the scrap, and any other places that you don't, you make money when you sell things, but it takes a lot of things to make money. And with recycling that the city does, or that, an entity does, a governmental entity, you're not making a profit on this. You have to charge for it. It's very costly to run trucks and to have landfills and to have transfer stations and to meet all the environmental regulations. So yes, I have worked in this field for years, and then I started volunteering at the depot. I don't even know when. While I was still working, I would come in maybe one day a week for a few hours and do various things. And somehow I slowly got involved in jewelry, and a year and a half ago, we got this enormous donation from Ridwell. And I don't know if you all know about Ridwell. Who knows about Ridwell? Okay, a lot of you do. Ridwell is a niche recycling company. It's a private company. And they started, a father and a son started it. The son was a young kid who said, hey, Dad, I don't want to, we need to do more to recycle. And you subscribe to it. And I think it's $18 a month if you want to include multi-layer plastic. They pick up film plastic, multi-layer plastic. And then every 2 weeks, they have a featured item. It can be fabric, it could be yarn, it could be office supplies, it could be school supplies, it could be art supplies, and it could be jewelry. And it could be corks, and it could be, all kinds of different things. And so every 2 weeks you have a featured bag, and you can fill it up or just put a few things in, and they come and get that. And they have nonprofit partners that are local partners that get to access that material. But they bring you what they're going to bring you in, or you go and pick it up, and it can be a lot. And it's not sorted or organized in any kind of way. And so the depot has been getting all these different things that I just mentioned. But we got jewelry a year ago, December, and it was a lot of jewelry. Each box weighs about 60 pounds, and we got 20 of them. And we have just gotten through the first 20 boxes, and then we got more boxes after that, and more boxes this past December. So we are curating it slowly as we have to go through all of it and sort it. You just can't dump it out on the table. It's not that kind of thing. And it's full of amazing things. Tiffany necklaces, sterling silver earrings, rings, pendants, bracelets, lots of costume. I'd say 90 to 95% of it is costume jewelry. But people love costume jewelry, and that 5 or 10% that's not is high value stuff, and it is bringing the depot a good income that's really helping to sustain it. But it takes a lot of time and volunteer effort to make that happen, because it's not something that the small staff has the time to do on a daily basis, to go through the stuff and have it spread out and all that kind of thing.
So, Brooke, you're starting to touch on some of the topics that we're going to maybe cover. Brooke is a wealth of information, both historically. And so you're here because you want to find out things. And we can all keep talking a lot, I know, because once you're in the thick of this, it's both really exciting and you have to stay passionate about it. And we want you to walk away having learned, best practices is our goal. So it looked to me like best methods to secure materials was pretty big. Okay. So,
I'd just like to say one thing. I really encourage you to want to hear about marketing and display, because you have to bring people into whatever you're creating. If you don't have a way to bring people in, to donate, if that's what you're doing, or to buy what you've gotten in your location, then you won't be making any money to sustain your organization. So marketing is not like running an ad in the newspaper, but it's different today. And knowing what the opportunities for that is, I think, is making a big difference here at the depot in a change that's taken place over the last few years about marketing.
okay. Materials, what do you think?
Definitely donations. We rely, everything like here at the depot, everything at scrap is donated. We sometimes, and we do have a lot of people who have been donating for years at scrap. And so we constantly are working with people to, like I've said previously, we want to take everything that they want to give us, but things at scrap change, and sometimes we have too much of a thing and we can no longer take those things. So we have to be a little little bit picky about what people take, but we really try and make our donors feel good about what they're doing, and we want them to come back. We don't want them to leave pissed or angry that they didn't get to leave their thing. We try and give them resources if we can't take a thing to get it somewhere else. We definitely do some outreach, so we get a lot of donations from people like all of you, just individuals that come and donate their stuff or their grandmother's stuff or their aunt's stuff that they're cleaning houses out from, and we rely on those donations, but we also have partners in the community, businesses that we call up from time to time. We're like, hey, last year you donated a whole bunch of these canvases. Do you have those again this year? Or there's a whole bunch of, fashion manufacturing going on in San Francisco, and we try and keep in touch with some of those people that have donated in the past and just check in and say, hey, last year you donated a lot of denim. Levi's, do you have any denim this year? And do you have dead stock from your business or we have a lot of interior designers that, once they're done with the project, their client has already paid for it. They don't really need to just keep housing it in their storage. So we try and reach out to those people and just check in and say, hey, we're ready for more. And individual donations are huge for us, and we try and get bigger fish with businesses and manufacturers, and
I think you called it dead product, so
Dead
it's.
stock, yeah.
Dead stock,
Dead
okay,
stock.
so it's not like first line stock, it's not like stuff that they're also trying to sell, it's stuff
Correct.
that, okay.
Yeah, they've made their run, they've built or made whatever they're going to use with that stock, and they're not interested in keeping it. Yes.
Have you ever done things like take a small truck to a neighborhood and call for certain things? In my neighborhood in Point Richmond, our St. Vincent de Paul group did this, trying to acquire furniture for people in West County. So I'm just thinking that more and more we have people in our urban landscape who don't have cars. And how do we get our neighbors who are living in these urban landscapes the ability to do something other than just throw it in the dumpster downstairs or put it on the street?
And so I know we touched on Ridwell, which to me is, even if you're not from this area or where Ridwell's operating, it sounds like make good partnerships, make alliances. We came up with some ideas already because I'm going to keep moving forward. But contacting local businesses, like I think we've gotten a lot of book donations from publishers, alliances with non-competitive
books.
entities, and then city bulky waste, depending on which kind of business that you have. I know that cities are always trying to figure out what to do with their bulky waste. That would be a very urban ore thing because they have the room. And then announcing in neighborhood publications or something like this, announcement in a little bit of a drive. So I think that you have to probably be creative and see what is in your community and benefit from what your community has to offer, because there is no one size fits all to this funky, wonderful sector that we're in.
Businesses that are going out of business. That is
Liquidations, yeah.
there are a lot of those, and it's sad to go in and say, hey, but I'm with this entity, and we would be willing to come and get some stuff.
So this is a good segue into, once you get your wonderful merchandise, how are you going to display it? So I think, Brooke, you had some ideas on merchandising.
I would just say, number one, the depot over the years, and especially under Anna's leadership, has really evolved fixtures and ways of displaying that have been much more better, and she can explain that better than I. With the jewelry area, we really had no infrastructure. We had the cases that have been here a long time, but we didn't have any way to show the jewelry on the cases. And so I was just scrounging around the depot and asking the dock staff to, anytime there's a tray, and then I was cutting out felt and putting it on the tray. And over time, we've gotten actual display stuff donated. And so we've been, now we have almost all black trays with the display bottom or little containerized sections in it. So displaying, we do buy the cards to put the earrings on. And we do buy the cards to put the pendant little necklaces on. Otherwise, they would be just a ball of wire. We do have tags, price tags, to put on the jewelry, the white Tyvek type tags, and we have a box of them over there if you want to take a picture of the box. Because, you don't want the tag to just rip off the jewelry. People come into this store and they're a little harsh on things. And by the end of the day, you'll find tags, and William was saying he finds tags all over his store. People take tags off. So you have to secure things pretty well and put your prices on things with, like if you're using the pricing guns, really stick it on there, not just lightly. But I think the merchandising and how you display your materials, really help.
To that point, we are a not-for-profit. We are selling, we're upscaling, cycling rather. But if you want people to value what you're offering, you need to display it as though you value it. So if people come in and everything is dirty and a big mess, why should they? They should expect to get it for nothing because you're saying this has no value. You're presenting your merchandise as though it has no value. So I think in terms of display and merchandising, part of it is a big part of it is you're communicating how you feel about what you do. So all of the effort that Brooke puts into the jewelry, the art, the organizations that we've been creating over this last while has gotten great feedback. I mean, people have come in and said, oh God, it's so much cleaner. Oh, it's so much easier to shop here. It's so much nicer to shop here. And they come back, There are the few holdouts who come in and go, I really liked it better the way it was before, We have a few of those. We have a few people who come in and are very cranky about it, but they are definitely in the minority. So I think how you present what you have reflects how you feel about what you do.
And I would say that no matter what the business was or the sector, you're always going to have people that are going to come in and complain that they want it back the way that they felt
Absolutely.
comfortable with.
Yes.
And also running a store like this is no different than running regular retail, really, because
No different.
you still are selling to people. They're still buying merchandise, and you still will need to do things like how long is it on the floor, how much space is it taking that you don't have saleable merchandise. How do you make the old look new again by re-merchandising in different parts of the store where you don't have to take a whole crafts department apart?
Right.
And so, I've known people that they've had stuff in the back of the store and they've moved it to the front, and people are like, oh my God, you have all this new stuff, because often people don't make it to the back. So it is really like running a regular retail store, as keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And so. You need to turn your merchandise just like anyone else. Your real estate needs to be, you need to earn revenue off your real estate because, as we just said, it's one of the biggest expenses, as is labor. I think that I'm going to go back to marketing because I know that some people wanted to hear more about facility, location, and consideration. And is anyone here thinking of actually starting a wonderful, important, necessary reuse store? Yay! Okay, so you want to know about location? Okay, all right. Does anybody, I know that from being around, definitely, William, I mean, we know that we need a loading dock. Every time we've talked about moving, we need a loading dock. I don't know if everyone needs a loading dock, but we certainly do.
So yeah, just quickly, I will mention that we are losing our lease where we currently are. We are housed in one of the giant warehouses of the San Francisco Unified School District, and they've been very generous for a long time. And we've had a 5-year lease that ends June 1st. So we're getting a grace period. They're not kicking us out. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, if it's going to be leased or month to month, and how long that's going to be. We are actively looking for a new home. So all of you that have connections with anyone who's got, yes, a big warehouse. We would like to stay in the southeast quadrant that we're currently in, because a lot of the schools that we serve are in that area, so it would just be easier. And we're just kind of used to being there. We kind of know the Bayview. We love the Bayview. We are open to moving to different places, and we have a very long list of things that we need. A loading dock is a must. I mean, there's some things that are deal breakers. We've seen great amazing properties, incredible buildings, no parking, no loading dock, no access to public transportation. I mean, there's just some things that we can't, just immediately they're not possible for us. But yeah, location is a big deal for us at Scrap. We are located in a kind of weird, very industrial, non-residential part of San Francisco that's hard to get to if you don't drive. Several buses are involved, and it's a whole thing that you really have to be very intentional about coming to Scrap because it's not easy. And so location, location, location. We hope that our new location is something easier to get to. And we're looking for something bigger. We currently have about 5,000 square feet. We would love to double it. That's not going to happen with our budget, but we are growing. We're kind of busting out of where we are, so we need a bigger space, and we would like to definitely stay, in the southern part of the city. There's lots of available real estate in, north of Market Street. Lots of businesses, offices closing. There's a ton, but, there's none of the things that we really require. So.
And I think that, I know in this location, things happen. Like the city completely changed what was going on in Temescal. And
Yeah.
it was tough to get through because the parking changed. It was under construction for a while. For some reason, I think just following a lot of social events that were going on in our society, the windows became a magnet for people to break, just because, And then we also have a graffiti magnet wall out there. And so
We sure do.
it's on our lease that we're responsible for graffiti abatement, even though we don't have any control over who graffitis. And so, there are certain considerations that I don't think we ever looked at before we got this space,
Yeah.
and they may never have existed.
Yeah.
And so, things change, and you can't control everything.
I mean, I think one thing that is great about this space, even though our windows get graffitied, our wall gets graffitied, having the window and foot traffic has been really beneficial to us because you don't have to have a car. You can take BART at 40th Street. So for us, where we're located, having that foot traffic, having a nice big window, even though, it does get broken, does get graffitied, I think that helps a lot. That's been very beneficial.
This is a destination and place where people do come, and I think they would seek it out if it wasn't as such a retail-oriented, because when the Depot opened here, it wasn't. When the Depot opened here, that big building across the street wasn't there. This neighborhood was not what it is today. It was an outskirts, it was on the edge, and Temescal was not a hot neighborhood. It's evolved around the Depot and, but the other two locations, the fire station was in a residential neighborhood, and the place on San Pablo was in an area where there wasn't like a lot of foot traffic or anything like that. It was like in a big office building on the ground floor, set back from the street. But I do think if you're going to have a reuse type of environment or a consignment store or whatever you're thinking of, you need to think about it. You're not a destination because you haven't established. So unless you're something really, really special, you probably need a location that is going to have some foot traffic and some energy. There's a place on College Avenue. Is anybody here from the Wardrobe Project? Has anybody heard of it? Yeah, so they're a little store on College Avenue. They're teeny. They're up by Eddie's Liquors on College near Forest. And I did not know this. They're a consignment store, and they have a rack out on the sidewalk every day, and I've walked by it many times. But they started something at the Rockridge BART station. I think it's this coming Saturday, once a month, and they rent spaces, and they have over 100 vendors with consignment, not individuals selling clothes from their closet, but 100 businesses that are small businesses incubating, vending from this location at the Rockridge BART station all day on Saturday. I think it's the third Saturday of the month usually, but I think it's this coming Saturday. So they have like all these people that have started these little teeny businesses and maybe have online businesses, and now they're at this vending. It's pretty amazing what this one little store has now started and reached out into the community, and I expect at some point they'll be expanding their little store maybe into a bigger store because of that. I don't know, but I've talked to them briefly, and they charge $50 to $100 to have a space on a Saturday. So, yeah.
So, and I think that, again, this is a retail business. Whether it's a nonprofit or a profit, it's still a retail business. So you still deal with customers. You have to know the products you're selling, have the right square footage. If you need backspace for storage, sometimes the stuff moves very quickly in here, and we don't have enough.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we get too much, and it's not moving quickly. So there is a balance that has to be struck, which I think kind of happens with the experience after a while. But I wouldn't bite off more than you can chew. Like, don't get a really big space if you can't afford it, because nothing's sadder than not being able to maintain your rent and figuring out how to fill it and then not being able to sell it. It is retail, so it rides the waves. I do think with what's going on, especially now with tariffs and we've seen supply chain issues before, they're going to be happening again, that this is a time for reuse to like rise up and shine. It really can solve a lot of problems. And including like for Urban Ore with their buildings and building materials. So sometimes the things that happen in the world can be beneficial to this sector, but I wouldn't want to count on pandemics again, or because the pandemic actually saved Urban Ore because they were deemed an essential business. So it actually put them way up over. It took out some of the competition and put them way over the top. But they're writing their own difficulties now, which might lead us a little bit over into staffing. Paid, volunteer, or hybrid. It sounds like it might be all,
All of the above. Yes, yes, yes. I think so.
especially for a nonprofit.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But again, like any other endeavor, if you hire people you respect and then you treat them well, you will have a better outcome. This is one way in which this is not your typical retail. You need a staff that knows a lot about a lot of different things. A lot of people bring expectations to reuse centers that they might not bring to your normal retail. All kinds of expectations, history. So having a coordinated team that understands the process, that gets the necessity for getting things in and then getting them out is critical. It's critical. Our entry level fee is $20 an hour. $20 an hour. That's our. That's it. That's a work in progress right now. Yeah, we're working on that.
I think volunteers are excellent when you're doing a nonprofit type format. But it is also a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of people I know that want to volunteer here. People come in and they say they want to volunteer, and I've seen them come and go. There's only a small number of steady, consistent volunteers. I know that Scrap on that slide, you said you have quite a few volunteers, so I'd like to hear more about that. But the depot has, a person who does yarn and fabric, and a person that does jewelry, and a person who's our all-around volunteer who does a number of different things. And I'm not sure who else we have besides that, but there's people say they want to do it, they're all excited, and then after a time or two, when they're told that here's what we need you to do, they maybe not have as much interest. It's good to get people who have an interest area and a knowledge base. Like somebody who's good in fiber and fabric, or someone that's good in art supplies or whatever it may be, because then they know values and they can help you with that. But it can be a challenge.
And I think that, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to say another thing that I've witnessed in all the non-for-profits I've worked with over many, many, many years, there are too oftentimes, volunteers are not appreciated the way they should be. And that is, they should be treasured. So I would just say, if you are going to include volunteers in your business model, especially those that are so supportive and long-lasting, treasure them and thank them. It's really important. And you'd think that would be a no-brainer, but sadly it's not. So,
Well, and I think also, and William, I know you're going to touch on this, but if you are in some way opening a business and you're depending on volunteer labor, it can be very shaky, and it means you have to have somebody that's dedicated to handling volunteers, both scheduling them and cultivating them. You'll lose some, you'll have to gain some. So that's been a lot of pressure I know here about who's going to do that because everyone's time is precious.
So at Scrap, we do have a volunteer coordinator. Really, really important position. I would say overall at Scrap, we have about a 3-to-1. We have about 15 people on staff and about 45 volunteers that help us. Some for 4 hours a month, some for 4 hours a week. It's really like some people are very regular. We have 2 star volunteers in the audience, Amy and Rada, who are Wednesday regulars and
Thank you.
keep us churning. They have an incredible knowledge in all things sewing and notions and all kinds of fibers, and we really tap their knowledge. It's really, for us, what we found is volunteers are going to do their best work doing something they like to do. So we try and match people. Of course, we have a million things that we need to get done, but when we have a choice of what we can ask people to help us with, we're going to go with what they know or what they're good at or what they like to do or like to, if it's paper or fabric, whatever they're into, like touching and organizing and sorting, that's going to help us. It's going to be more mutually beneficial if they're into. Mostly customers come in and ask. They're like, hey, I love it here, and I want to help you guys. Do you need help?
And we stay because William is like the most amazing person of all.
Oh, stop.
So it is a
There's-
vibe. It's a vibe, and
There, I don't know. I love scrap, but I don't know if I would volunteer as much.
Well,
And I feel the same way, working with Anna is really easy. We see things very similarly, we communicate about, I have my idea and I let her know what it is, and it's a yay or nay, it's usually a yay, but,
I find that I learn so much from our volunteers. It's incredible. Like, I'm a sewist. I like to make things. I like to sew. I like fabric. I like yarn. I like all the fibers. But my knowledge has grown exponentially just from people that have come to help us. It's like, and it's so much fun to compare notes and be like, I'm pretty sure this is silk, but I don't know. I can't tell. And well, look at the selvage. This can tell you like where it was made, and it's, the width of the yardage means that it's this old because they stopped making things 36 inches wide. It's like, okay, let me write that down. It's an amazingly symbiotic and fun relationship that we have, and I appreciate everything that Rada said, but there's so many people at Scrap that also feel the way that I feel about our volunteers, and we really treat them with the respect that they deserve, and we shower them with thanks and occasionally cookies, and
Do you guys incentivize in any structured way? I mean, you're very appreciative and you're kind, but are there little things that you do just for the volunteers?
so we have like we have a discount structure where it's like employees get X amount and volunteers get X amount, and I'm one of the people that sort of like gets to decide that, and basically like employees that want to get their discount, obviously they get their discount, but volunteers in my book get almost as good of a discount depending on like how much time they're spending, and they help us so much. We would never achieve all these lofty goals that we have without them, so they kind of are employees that aren't getting paid. So in my mind, they're entitled to an employee discount, and I don't know that it necessarily keeps them coming back, but it doesn't hurt. Like very rarely do we have a volunteer that comes and helps us that doesn't walk out of there with like a half a basket or a full basket of stuff, and it's great because it means that we're on the right track, and we've got stuff that the people that are so in the know. I mean, these two know everything about fabric, and if they're leaving Scrap with a bunch of stuff every week, then we're like onto something. So we definitely incentivize, I guess, in that regard.
I'm laughing because this is the same retail model that fashion has, is that they give ample discounts to the people that work there, and then they just put their profits, I mean, all their earnings back in the store. But the nice part is it does what the goal is it keeps things in circulation, which is what we want in a circular economy. We want things to have the longest lifespan they can as what they are. You know, we often use the adage that a chair wants to be a chair for as long as it can be a chair. So that's why reuse and repair are so important. And then when it can no longer be a chair, then we take it apart and we have it be other things. And it can become materials. But so it's the highest and best use approach. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up how important it is to stay current, to pay attention to what's going on in the labor market and the labor movements. We've seen that happen. It hasn't been just in reuse, but we've seen generations change that have different ideas about how they approach work. The depot has been, I'd say reuse does tend to attract certain kinds of people. Sometimes they're looking for an organization that they really feel that they belong to and it's a good fit. I've seen them then be disappointed when it actually feels like a job. And I think that and then, well, so I also work as a zero waste consultant. I had to go and work in Palm Springs when they passed their version of the disposable foodware reduction ordinance. And I met with restaurants to tell them what the law was. It was already a law. And they said, I'm not doing anything to upset my employees because I don't want them to not show up for work. And we're talking minimum wage work, which is, more in California than it was there. But I had never seen a labor market of largely unskilled labor that was trained, let's say, to be a barista or something in a cafe. They had so much power over their management. I'd never seen anything like it because the managers said, if they don't show up, I have to work 70 hours this week. So they were always making up for shifts. And I know that was happening the Great Resignation, younger people that were able to live at home, all that, the PPP money, not PPE, that people were helping them stay afloat. And then the advent of unions at places that hadn't seen unions before. So it is important to stay abreast of what's going on in the changing labor market movement. So I'm going to put that out there now because unfortunately there is a strike going on with one of our reuse entities, and it will be something that does come up if you have employees. So I know that we at the depot have spent time before you got here, Anna. It always is up about how much is the going rate, how much can we afford to pay. Reuse, zero waste is very much about not just environmental justice, but social justice. So trying to balance those needs. But sometimes there's only so much you can do when you are an entrepreneur, which anyone would be, and trying to figure out how you're going to keep an entity running and also be fair. And I think to Anna's credit and to William, it is very much about the environment that you create to help people feel appreciated.
I would just say it's important that we do everything you describe, that you genuinely do what you can. You take the actions you can take, because it's important that you show that appreciation in that regard, both in what you say and how you treat people, but also in what you do, what you prioritize. My very smart mom once said to me, I was working a show, I was having difficulty with the shop, they were driving me nuts, the shop that would build the clothes I would design. And I said to her, I remember saying, well, I really try hard to make them feel like I care about them. And she stopped, my little mom, she's tiny, and she said, dear, do you care about them? Or do you just want them to feel that you care about them? And I thought, oh dear, and I was completely called out. It's a really important distinction though, So, finding that balance is critical, but the onus is on us to find that balance and to actively search it out and honor it.
And I think when, quickly just finishing up the part too about profit or nonprofit, I mean, that really is to you. If you have a good partner in the community, if the city, if your municipality can lend support. I personally have come to feel that, again, reuse, all of this zero waste, it shouldn't be a charity. People should be able to make money off of it. It's not fair to think that a municipality or the government is going to take care of you getting rid of your stuff. I mean, and that's part of a bigger system. If it's more expensive to throw your stuff in a landfill cart, then maybe that's a deterrent. I mean, if it really, I think if waste services really reflected how much they cost the environment, then people wouldn't throw stuff away as easily. But, you know, they're very complicated, as Brooke knows, franchise agreements. But we have to help and work to change the perception that used stuff shouldn't be free.
You talked about Urban Order spending $371,000 in expenses and taxes and all that. What was their profit? What did they make?
Well, they've never been heavily profitable, but they are profitable. They're not like, they don't have shareholders that they have to, you know, give. Right, they don't. And so they really were mission driven. They still are mission driven, which is, you know, we've been relying on mission driven industries that do this for a long time. And it should be a regular business. As I said, it shouldn't be charity. They do make money. They were not in as good a shape financially because they were trying to pay people fairly. They have a profit sharing program. The union was formed. But they are basically putting a lot of the money back in to, there's never a shortage of stuff, let me tell you that. So if anything, it's how do they keep moving it? They don't have time to market what they have. And, did you want to say
I
something?
just want to talk about the nonprofit option. I serve on a couple nonprofit boards, and I was just recently involved. One of the boards I'm on had a lot of we were a fiscal sponsor for entities that weren't nonprofits, but that wanted to come under our tax ID number, and, you know, they had no other, because it takes a lot of money, an attorney, and a lot of effort to become a nonprofit. And you have to, it's mission driven.
You have to have a
Nonprofits are
board.
mission, yeah, and you form a board and all that. So we have taken on fiscal accounts. We're now releasing those fiscal accounts because it's a huge amount of liability to have all these fiscal accounts who can use your tax ID number. They're supposed to get your permission, but then after the fact, you find out they applied for a grant or something else. Establishing a nonprofit is a lot of effort and energy, and unless you have like a mission, and yes, reuse is a mission. This has been here a long time. Scrap has been there a long time. I don't know, it's not like these types of things just pop up all over the place. It is, you're not making a profit, so nobody's making any money off of the entity. You're just making hopefully enough money to pay the costs of the staffing, the utilities, the rent, and the programs, yes. It's a challenge to become a nonprofit. So, you know, if I was thinking about doing a for-profit business and doing reuse, consignment type of thing, like a Crossroads or the Wardrobe Project, I think I would go out and talk to some of the people that run some of those businesses. There's quite a few of them. Mercy, what's it called? Mercy Recycling. Well, Mercy, which is a clothing store which opened on College Avenue, used to have a little store on Piedmont, and then they had 2 little stores on Piedmont. Now they have a huge store on College Avenue at Forest in Oakland. Crossroads is moving to a much bigger facility on College Avenue near the Rockridge Market Hall. And they must be doing really well. There's a number of record stores. We haven't talked about that. Most record stores are not, they're not nonprofits, but they're profit making, but they're all getting, most of what they're getting is already previously owned records. And there's many of them. Now, College Avenue has 3 of them, and there's one down the street from College Avenue, just in one little neighborhood. So there are a lot of opportunities out there for profit-making businesses that do this kind of thing. I think it's just establishing where you're going to get your feedstock, and whether that's feasible that you would be able to get enough material of whatever genre you've decided to do to actually make it work from a profit standpoint to pay the rent and the bills.
Are any of those places like B Corps or what of those sort of, we're doing good in the community?
I don't know any that are B
What-
Corps
what's-
personally.
What,
A B Corp?
Like, you know, when they I think it's a certain title that indicates you're doing.
You have to meet certain, you're a corporation, but you have to meet certain levels of
Yeah.
bars of sustainability.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, but I don't know any that are because it's actually kind of pricey to be. It's usually for it's usually for manufacturing is what I noticed
Oh, okay.
more than it would be for something like this. And I was just going to say about things like location. You know, for instance, if you're closer to the Cal campus, there's a lot of clothing reuse stores, and they know their audience who's coming in, so they know the price points. They know the age group likes to have clothing switched out all the time. And so it's really wonderful that we have a younger generation that is enjoying thrifting and calling things vintage. Now, as a vintage shopper that was buying clothes, you know, when I was 16 from the 30s and 40s, it's really hard for me to look at something that is, you know, 15, 20 years old.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years is vintage.
Woo. And I'm like, okay, I guess some of my 90s stuff. But anyway, so we are probably going to stop. We're going a little bit over because we started a little late. We probably only have about less than 10 minutes for questions. I hope we covered most of the things between the panelists discussing their work and covering some of the topics, especially where more hands went up. So would anyone, you have a burning question that didn't get answered? Please.
Specifically for the two of you, I mean anyone. I know there was a bill passed in Congress about recycling fabric and materials. It was a recent.
In Congress or in California?
It was in California specifically. And I was just wondering if you guys had any experience with that, or like how to become a hub for that, because I know you did the salvage thing. Is there any information on?
I think I'm familiar with the bill. I can't remember what number it is. It also means that, mind you, when things pass, it takes a while to write the rules and regs. So it's good to kind of keep up with where it is. I don't know. I mean, when they passed SB 1383, which was to get all, you know, organic materials into a green bin, and believe me, all over California, there were many municipalities that did not have any organics bin carts at the curb. It took 5 years to write those regulations. So everything went into effect. I'm looking at Laurentine right now because she knows. It went into effect in, I think, January 2022. And part of it was there weren't enough compost facilities to process it built. But it's you know, these heavy lifts that California does, and I don't think that will be as heavy of a lift. And also it had a component for edible food recovery, which means you had to build infrastructure, not the textile one, the SB 1383. But so it'll be a while. I would keep your eye on it, and I don't remember what number it is. There's so many.
It's SB 707.
Yes.
Yeah, and
It's like 23 or 24 it passed. Right? Was it last year?
I think it was last
24,
year,
yeah.
but
So it'll be a
now
while.
they're doing like the reconnaissance.
Okay.
It's like a law.
Yeah, it'll be, and it's just like a number salad when there's so many bills that are getting passed, which is so great, but it'll take a long time before we get to feel them. But it is really interesting to be part of watching what some of the work groups are doing. If they have a dedicated, work group that's going on, like they passed SB 54, how many years ago? 2 years ago? And that's about reducing plastic packaging. So yeah, it was 2 years ago because unfortunately Governor Newsom, after 2 years of work from the body that was appointed to start writing all the rules and regulations, Governor Newsom said he wasn't happy with the work and it was going to be too arduous and difficult for the plastics producers to meet this. Thank you, Gavin. And so they're being sent back to the drawing board. So it just shows there in these time periods, especially where they had a producer responsibility organization, the manufacturers were going to be in charge of some of their crap, is that they were able to kind of lobby a bit heavily about, oh, that's going to be really too hard. So we'll see where it falls. So it is a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing one time. So you had your hand up.
I had a question. So when you all are receiving donations and things are like broken, like when do you all decide like, oh, this is worth repairing versus like this isn't?
Oh, that's really tricky. William and I were agreeing so oftentimes, for example, with sewing machines, oh, it works, it absolutely works, it works. And it's like, it doesn't. Sometimes you have to be a little tough about that, because then you end up basically having a parts graveyard, for a whole variety of things. So we are pretty stringent about that to the best of our ability. But as I say, people don't tell us the truth always.
And one thing that happens too with that is that we get our own illegal dumping in the back because they're like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's not open. It's 9:00 at night. It's not open. And we have it well posted on our site
Yeah.
what we take and what the other, and then the depot has to pay to have it taken away.
Right.
So we are not a recycling facility, and people need to
yeah.
get that through their head too.
That's a scourge.
Yeah.
The legal dumping is a
Yeah, it
scourge.
is.
It's just, it's one of our biggest challenges.
I'll call on them. I can see them. I've got an eye there and an eye there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I founded a reuse store in Davis, California about 2.5 years ago, and thank you. And we started because of the amount of salvage, the amount of stuff that was produced by students, because we're in Davis, and so, but it's not just students, we all know it's everybody.
Are you the
And I just have to
Mercantile?
get that into, people's brains.
What's your store name?
Community Mercantile.
Yay!
So we have been volunteer run, including me as the executive director, for 2.5 years. We're just getting ready to hire some employees, some part-time employees, so I can get weekends off. So I've been manning the shop as well as doing all the other administrative stuff. How do you determine, what the employees do versus what the volunteers do? Where do you draw that line? And
That's a really, really good question. We encourage, I think it was mentioned by Brooke, or Anna, I'm not sure, about having our employees know basically everything in the store and work in the intake. We have got a couple people that refuse to work the register, and we respect that. But in general, we want everyone to know a little bit about everything, and we have a lot of people that have specializations, and one of the most important things is sharing information. So we have artists, a lot of staff at Scrap are artists, and if you work in a thing and you know that thing really well, it's kind of great if you can share that knowledge. And so we generally request, or we ask our volunteers to not jump into sort of the front line. So when things are coming in to our intake, that's really an employee space. So we ask our employees to kind of have that first line of, interaction with our donors, and then kind of turn around to our volunteers and say, okay, we got this thing. Now we need to sort it. We need to, figure out how we're going to price it. Can you do some research on it? Can you work with it from here? Some volunteers know certain materials better than some staff, so we make exceptions to those rules, and we will let volunteers take things in. But generally, yeah, it's an employee thing to be at the intake at the loading dock, and then once a thing is inside the store, we move it into our workshop and we have volunteers process it. And just to get to your question really quickly about broken things, it's kind of a no for us, as much as we would like to. I mean, I want to save every sewing machine ever. And even though we don't take them from people, if someone who's like a regular customer who comes in every week and she's a sewist and and I know her and I know where she not lives, but I'm gonna be able to, track her down. If she says, hey, this was my machine, I just upgraded, it works fine, I will take it. But when things are, it was my ex's grandmother's second cousins in a building she used to, no, too many variables.
A little janky.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I?
Okay,
We really need to wrap
I
it
was
up.
going to say, the only other thing, another distinction between employee and volunteer, volunteers don't handle money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big, employees. Yeah, but But that is a big distinction because that involves accountability and transparency.
It's probably not a best practice. It doesn't mean it's not done, but we are trying to help you with best practices. And for running a sustainable business, if you're running and if you're doing it that long and don't have weekends, it's not particularly sustainable. Right. Yes, and thank God, because you need to have a life outside of, right? Because you'll burn out, and then we'll lose you. You had a question?
I do. My name is Jen Fletcher, and I started a reuse out of just a storage unit about 10 years ago and made it available for local teachers. I'm from Tuolumne County. And now we have Tuolumne County Arts has taken us under their umbrella, and Revamp Recyclery is now operational in Sonora, so I invite you all to come visit us. And we are we have a tiny, tiny spot, thank you, and we're outgrowing it. And but as a nonprofit, we are sadly not supported by our city or county, so we are looking for other ways. A lot of grants often don't pay for rent, so trying to figure that out and trying to find space, that sort of thing.
Or building it, construction expenses.
Well, we can't even think about construction, but it would be amazing. So we are looking for a place for a dock or a lift, that sort of thing, but it's very minimal. So grant-wise though, do you weigh things coming in so that you know your numbers, then how much you're able to?
Absolutely.
Okay, weigh everything coming in, but do you weigh it going out, or just coming in?
Just coming in, but like every single thing. Yeah.
Well, especially it's like it helps with your diversion. You can measure diversion because data is everything. Data is everything when you're trying to get someone to give you money.
Yeah, our grants from San Francisco Environment are based directly on the numbers that we're tracking. Yeah.
Are you able to pay for? I mean, we all wish that we could sell everything and keep it out of the waste stream, but the things that you cannot sell or that do not sell.
We have a huge free section at Scrap. When you come into Scrap, it's basically like almost half of that front section in the depot right here is all free.
Do you have relationships with Waste Management or anything locally for things that you just, or?
I mean, other than we pay them to come get our stuff, like our trash.
One of the other options now, which we know because of like these, buy nothing groups or Facebook marketplaces, you can also put like a lot together and put it on, and they come pick it up. I mean, people that maybe don't know your store, but they are used. It's like a modern garage sale. If you don't have time to canvass a neighborhood. So I'm mindful of time because we have gone over, we got started late, but we've gone over. Is there one more burning question? Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up for the evening.
I thought about bookkeeping and accounting. What do you guys do for that? I am a bookkeeper or accountant, whatever, so.
What part do you want to know? We do bookkeeping and accounting. Maggie does.
Yes.
You have to. Yeah.
Well,
Maggie, did you learn your skills here?
I did. I have done the bookkeeping full charge here for some years, but a couple years ago we started outsourcing to an online bookkeeping service. So I still do some, but they do some.
I mean, you're still going to have to pay taxes and all the stuff. And if you're a nonprofit, it'll be a little more complicated.
Right.
But it is a business.
Right.
And I think that we wanted to make sure that we were not here tonight to tell you how to start a business because we're not business consultants. We certainly, I think I've owned a business. I mean, I could tell you my horror stories and what I would have done differently. But we do urge everyone to find out what exists in your area. Find out. Get involved with chambers of commerce. I mean, whatever is in your area that can help build alliances, raise your profile. At this point in time, there's so many ways to raise your profile. We didn't get to touch on marketing much, but obviously, social media is a huge, huge, huge marketing tool and driver. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a perfect storm right now for reuse because we are in tough times. Even if people haven't lost tangible money yet, they probably will. And people still like stuff, and when people don't have control over certain things in their life, they do have control over buying something and bringing it home and their nest, et cetera. And we have a younger generation that's coming up that's really appreciative and understanding. So there's a lot of hope there. So I would ask every single one of you to start a reuse store. How's that? Not all on the same block, though. So thank you for our wonderful AV crew, and again to Stop Waste for helping us underwrite this. And we are a nonprofit, and we do take donations, so don't forget us. And we work to keep our profile high. Yeah, exactly. We'll pass the hat around.
And we're at Creative Reuse on Instagram. If you want to follow us on Instagram, at Creative Reuse, or the East Bay Depot for Creative Reuse on Facebook. And there's a mailing list QR code up at the counter. You can just take your smartphone and get on our mailing list. Maggie and the team do a great job on a newsletter, and they tell you what's up and coming. Recently on Wednesdays and Thursdays, there's a 50% off certain item in the store, like it might be office supplies 1 week, or tomorrow it's going to be jewelry.
And we're doing that
not in
because
the
Wednesdays
case.
and Thursdays are slow.
And we're open to creative collaborations because really we do have to all be very collaborative now and support each other. We've had sales where I think we had succulent people come in. They brought their lists. We hosted a place outside for them to sell. So, these collaborations and, the power of numbers and coming together. And so I encourage everyone to avail yourselves of that and, be part of this wonderful growing community. Okay? So.
I just have a super quick marketing thing. We do all the same things that you guys do, the Instagrams and the newsletters and all that. One thing that's super helpful in the Instagram space is when people who come to your reuse center and use your stuff to reuse and make things tag you and say, look what I got at the East Bay Depot, and look at this jacket that I made, and this lining is from the East Bay. I mean, that is cool. So that is, we do our own direct whatever marketing, and there's a million people that do our Instagram page, and it's very diverse, but to have those people out in the community who are actually customers of your store and make things with your stuff and hit you back and tag you and all those things, is huge.
Yes. And TikTok too. You go on TikTok and see all the people that are thrifting in different places and, telling you what they did with the stuff. Powerful.
Big players up there.
Well, thank you, everybody. Let's grow our tribe, okay? Appreciate you coming.